All right, guys. Today we are going to be dividing using partial quotients. This is lesson 3.7 in your My Math book. And by the end of this, I hope that you can say, I can use the distributive property to solve a division problem. Our vocabulary for today is partial quotient. And just like with a partial product in a multiplication problem, we're going to break the division problem down, find parts of the quotient, and then add those together at the end. We have a couple different ways of doing that, as you will see. So our first problem says Jessie has 369 beads to be split evenly among 3 necklaces. So how many beads can Jessie put on each necklace? Well, as always, we need to know what we're trying to find before we start any word problem. And here is our question. How many beads can Jessie put on each necklace? Well, how many beads does Jessie have? She has 369, and she's trying to make 3 necklaces. So hopefully we will be able to answer that question when we are done. So ultimately we are trying to find 369 divided by 3. Well, here's one method of doing this, and this may look very, very familiar to some of us. It actually should look pretty familiar to all of us. So here's my box representing all the beads that I have. Well, I know that I have 300 beads plus 60 beads plus 9 beads. All right, that's pretty simple, and I'm dividing this by 3. Well, I ask myself, what times 3 equals 300? And I hope we are all shouting at the screen, Mr. Nager, it's 100, it's 100. Well, it is 100. And how many times does 3 go into 60? And we get 20. And then finally down to our basic fact of 3 times 3 equals 9. And then we just add these numbers together, and we get 123. So our answer would be Jessie will need to put 123 beads on each necklace. Okay, that's one way of working this problem. Let's take a look at another. All right, there are 738 students in Manuel's school. There are 6 grade levels in his school. With each grade having the same number of students, how many students are in the 5th grade? Okay, so what are we being asked to find? We are being asked to find how many students are in the 5th grade. Okay, so what do we know? Well, we know that there's a total of 738 students. There are six grade levels in the school. I'm assuming K through 5, just like we have here at Long. Well, how can we solve that? We're going to have to divide 738 by 6. So, a little bit different from how I did my last problem. I'm going to set this one up. It's going to look quite a bit like the division problems that we're used to seeing, the long division problems that we're used to seeing, but with little change. So 738 divided by 6. Well, I'm going to draw a line coming down here. Sometimes this is called the big 7 method because this looks like a big 7. It's just an easy way for us to break these down. All right, well, let's just go place value by place value. How many times will 6 go into 700? Well, at least 100, right? At least 100, because 100 times 6 equals 600. And so just like with long division, I go ahead and I subtract, and I get 138. Well, Now I ask myself, what's the biggest number I can think of that's easily going to go into 138? Well, 13 isn't far from 12, so what if I just called this 120? Well, 6 is going to go into 120 20 times. 2 times 6 is 12, plus this, don't forget this 0 back here. And again, I subtract, and I end up with 18. And I hope we all see what's happening now. 18, we get 6 going into 18. 6 times 3 equals 18. I multiply 3 times 6, I get 18. I subtract, and I end up with 0. And then once again, I add all those numbers together, and I get 123 for my answer. So here are two different ways of looking at the same problem. We're going to do one more example using the Big 7 method. All right, one last quick example. Let's say we had 249 divided by, let's do 8. So we're going to set that up, and remember my dividend goes on the inside, 249. 8, my divisor goes outside, and I'm going to put this long stick to separate my work from my problem. All right, well, 8 goes into 200. Well, we can even just take a look at how many times does 8 go into 24. Well, 8 goes into 24 3 times, so 8 will go into 240 30 times. So we get 240, and we subtract. 249 minus 240 will equal 9. How many times does 8 go into 9? It'll go in 1 time. 1 times 8 equals 8. I subtract. I get 1. I can't take any more groups of 8 out of 1, so that will be my remainder. Let's solve here. Find out what my quotient is. 30 plus 1 is 31. 31. And I still got to remember that I have my remainder of 1. All right, well, I hope that this video helped you to understand how partial quotients can help you solve division problems.